Hi, I'm Miriam Sadiq, and this is Trials and Errors, a show where we talk about the latest legal issues and what's going on in the news. Right now, the only thing any of us are hearing about is impeachment. So I wanted to spend some time today talking about what impeachment is exactly. It was just about a year ago that Impeachment 1.0 was introduced in the House of Representatives against Donald J. Trump. History is repeating itself, but we hope this version really is new and improved. Last year, the House voted to impeach, and the Senate refused to hear from any witnesses or examine any evidence. In fact, Lindsey Graham said, "I'm trying to give a pretty clear signal. I have made up my mind. I'm not trying to pretend to be a fair juror here." I have to be honest, as a criminal defense attorney, it's nice of Senator Graham to tell his intentions at the very beginning. Many times we let jurors on a jury when that's exactly what they think. They think our clients are guilty, but they end up on the jury and then, well, we know what happens then. But let's talk today not about juries or jurors not doing their jobs, but about impeachment specifically and what it means. How does it work? You'd think we'd all be experts at this point, considering everything we've been through. But let's get a refresher while we wait for Congress to act. What is impeachment? Well, in the United States, criminal cases are usually brought by what's called an indictment. An indictment is a piece of paper, literally, that is used to bring a person to trial. In order to get an indictment, in the usual course anyway, prosecutors introduce evidence, testimony, eyewitnesses, physical evidence, and they bring that evidence to a grand jury. What's a grand jury? Well, it's a super secret court that only the prosecutor gets to go to and present evidence in. When I say secret, I mean they hold all of their proceedings in secret. As the former New York Chief Judge Saul Walker was famously quoted as saying, "A skilled prosecutor could indict a ham sandwich." Judge Walker regrets not saying pastrami sandwich given his New York roots. Also, interesting fact, but that quote was originally found in Tom Wolfe's Bonfire of the Vanities, in case you cared about that. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't even take a skilled prosecutor to bring an indictment against someone. Anyone can bring an indictment against anyone. Why am I telling you about indictments? Because the articles of impeachment are akin to an indictment. The articles of impeachment lay out the charges against the president. Evidence is presented. Then the House votes. The House of Representatives in this case is the chamber that brings the evidence, so they act like the grand jury. They vote on whether or not to impeach, and impeach simply means to indict. It doesn't mean a conviction any more than an indictment means a conviction. Now, we know that a lot of people think if you didn't do it, they wouldn't have charged you. But we know that's not technically true. Innocent until proven guilty, etc., etc. Except in criminal cases where you can be held without bail pre-trial and can sit in jail for a couple of years awaiting trial, and not in your, say, White House with a chef and Secret Service protection. There are some other minor differences between impeachments and indictments. In order to impeach, the House just needs a simple majority. It doesn't have to be unanimous. And since they've got more Democratic members than Republican, it seems likely this time around again that will happen. The articles of impeachment, once they're passed in the House, then get to the Senate. And the Senate is where the actual trial happens. Article 1, Section 3 says, "The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments," meaning the senators are the jurors. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation, meaning they'll be sworn the way regular jurors are. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. And that's important too. It's the members who are present. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, punishment, and judgment. Now, the judgment means what sort of sentence can be imposed upon the president who is convicted after an impeachment trial. There's a lot going on around the internet about what exactly this means, what sort of punishment can a convicted president get. Well, first, we know from the Constitution that he can be removed from office. But what if that happens after January 20th, 2021? Nothing happens if the only thing they vote on is removal. But they can also vote to convict, with the punishment being that he would be barred from ever holding office again. That would mean exactly what it says. He could never hold office again. He couldn't run for president in 2024. He couldn't be vice president. He couldn't be city council member or dog catcher. And he couldn't be a notary public either. Since in order to be a notary, you have to swear oaths and be of good moral character. None of this is to say that Donald Trump wouldn't try. After all, we know he doesn't believe that any of the rules apply to him. And so far, his party has held that view as well. If the president is removed from office, he won't get his pension or any of the other lifetime benefits. And if he isn't removed, and it doesn't seem likely that he will be, because I just heard that Mitch McConnell said he wasn't going to resume the Senate until January 19th at the earliest. If he's not removed, then he gets to keep all of the lifetime benefits that he has, including his pension, his health insurance, and his Secret Service. There are a few other differences between criminal trials and impeachment trials. For example, there's no standard of proof, like beyond a reasonable doubt or preponderance of the evidence. It's all just whatever the senators feel. How about that for the whole facts don't care about your feelings crowd, huh? They don't even have to hear evidence or listen to testimony of witnesses. See last year's impeachment trial, where they didn't even pretend to listen. They did crosswords. They talked to each other. And as I said before, Lindsey Graham made it very clear that he was not interested at all in being an impartial juror. And there can be no other punishment imposed by the Senate other than removal and barring from holding future office. He can, though, be indicted in a criminal case in federal or state court, and then he'd just be a regular citizen. So now we wait for Congress to act once again. We were hopeful last year that perhaps President Trump had learned his lesson from impeachment, but it seems the only thing that happened was that he was even more emboldened. If the Senate fails to act this time around, and if in fact he does decide to run in 2024, and by some crazy chance he happens to win, I think at that point we will really become experts on impeachment. If you like this channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, and also that bell icon so that you can be notified whenever we push something fantastic like this out. Thanks.
Enjoy.
All right, next.